With the Iowa Lottery's new Millionaire for Life game, you could win $1 million a year for life. That could make you a My Dream Job is No Job millionaire. Front row tickets to every show millionaire. Hire a personal glam squad for you and your bestie millionaire.
Yep, a little further.
Or just to never run out of your favorite pickles millionaire. With Millionaire for Life from the Iowa Lottery,
And these.
you can change your life for life. Play today.
Billy Currington and Kip Moore live in concert. Saturday, June 13th, Lauritsen Amphitheater. Billy Currington, Kip Moore, and Kenny Whitmire. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster. A part of the Willis Summer Series. Don't miss Billy and Kip live.
Chad Leistikow, Scott Dochterman, the two biggest Hawkeye and Big Ten beat writers, together on one show. Game Day Men's Health proudly presents Legends and Listeners, best enjoyed with an easy Eddie from Big Grove Brewery. This is Legends and Listeners, exclusively on Iowa Everywhere.
Hey, Hawkeye fans, Big Ten fans, and Iowans everywhere. It is March, and it is Legends and Listeners here on Iowa Everywhere. As always, we are presented by Game Day Men's Health. This is our 135th episode. I am Chad Leistikow of the Des Moines Register, joined as always by my friend and the esteemed colleague, Scott Dochterman of The Athletic, and we are pleased to be joining you from the Channel Seed Studios, both back in Iowa currently. I'll be heading out soon, but we've got some major storylines to discuss on today's show in both Iowa men's and women's basketball. We've got a big story I've been working on that posted this morning, which we'll get to on our Under Pressure segment later on in the show. And our friend Scott was at the NFL Combine, so we've got a lot of storylines to pluck from there, a lot of stuff to pick his brain about. He's got some videos that are pretty cool, so we're going to talk about all that. Scott, welcome back from Indy, my friend. I'm going to head over there tomorrow, so we're trading spots. How are you?
I'm doing all right, Chad. You know, it's been at this time of year, everybody's kind of worn down from the season and for basketball purposes, but then in our case, or in my case, it was 6 days in Indianapolis, and you know, and the music just keeps playing on and on and on. So you know, it's you know, sometimes it becomes a distraction, I would say. But no, I would say pretty much with the combine, it was an entertaining week, and there was a lot going on, and Iowa stole the show. Jennings Dunker became the life of the party.
Seriously.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
The best video I think I've ever seen was a slow-mo run of him with Freebird playing in the background.
I saw that.
I laughed so hard.
Oh man, whatever team drafts him is going to have a lot of fun with that. That's going to be. I can't wait to hear more about the combine.
Yeah,
a little bit later in the show. I've got a lot of questions because I really did not follow it very closely, so I'm going to really pick your brain. But if you guys listened to our show a week ago, we were discussing Iowa's big win over Ohio State at home, the 20th win of the season for the Hawkeyes. They're going to the NCAA tournament. Everything's great. And then since our last show, crash landing in State College, which tends to happen. I feel like I've covered like 4 of those over there in that cavern. Hawkeyes lose to the last place team in the Big Ten, Scott, 71-69. And it was such a bad loss because you knew what was coming this week. Tonight, the Hawkeyes face the best team in the conference, one of the best teams the conference has seen in a long time, in Michigan. And then Sunday, they have to go into the hornet's nest of Nebraska after all of the post-game emotion, pre-game emotion from that game. Payback. We'll be waiting for the Hawkeyes. We'll see how they respond, but that's a few days away. But we knew that was coming, Scott, and that's what, to me, makes this loss so disappointing, not to mention they blew a lead in the final minutes and just couldn't do anything.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I was at the combine finishing up after talking to all the offensive linemen, and so I just popped on the game tracker and was kind of following along there, and then all of a sudden I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? And then I saw there was a foul with 1 second left, and that's how they ended up getting beat. And I thought,
yeah,
there are bad losses. I mean, I think we look at the Maryland loss was bad. Yeah. Minnesota was bad, but Minnesota's not that bad of a loss. I mean, they're not a good team, but they're not the worst team in the league by any stretch. But this one to me it ranks last because you've kind of put yourself in a position now where you win this game, no questions. You're in the tournament. I still think they are, but you do have some doubts now. And now you start to go, it's March, and is this going to be a fade territory because your next two games are very difficult opponents. The first one is. It would be a significant upset. I mean, one of the biggest upsets in Iowa history because I think Michigan's that good. Mm-hmm. And the other flip side of it is I'm not so sure Iowa is that good. And, right. So to play Michigan within 10 points, to me is a good game for Iowa. And then going to Nebraska, after what happened, the court rush and, Fred smacking the phone and smacking Kyle Denning in the process. And,
it's so comical.
I know. Yeah. And Nebraska lost its senior day last year to Iowa over there. And
that's right.
They didn't get in the Big Ten tournament when they had top 15 teams got in the Big Ten tournament. It was winning in. And, so, there's going to be some motivation there as well, although they didn't play very well this week either out on the West Coast. But I do think, though, that they've got to get their stuff together. I mean, mm-hmm. They've been pretty inconsistent, I think, over the last couple of weeks. And where they were the worst on Saturday was defense. And, yeah. I mean, I know Penn State is a horrific offense and defense and a decent offense.
They're good
overall.
Offense, yeah.
But still, to allow them to shoot 72% in the second half, 64% for the game. That's what Ben McCollum's here for, is defense. Mm-hmm. That was Fran defense. They've got to do better than that. And again, the consistency is what is maddening about this team. Because when you see them the way they played against Ohio State and a few other teams, you think, okay, they're there. And then all of a sudden, like Fulgaris, it looked like last week we're praising him like, okay, this is the player that if he plays like this, Iowa has a chance to do what? And instead, his plus minus is minus 15. That's unacceptable, period. And I think that they've reached that point in the season where, everybody kind of has their ups and downs. But I'm right now, for the first time this year, going, I don't really like the direction of this, after, especially knowing who they've got left on their schedule.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, that's why we're still talking about this 5 days later, like it's that bad of a loss. It's lingering. They were kind of on the cusp last week when we talked of the 7 seed in the NCAA tournament. Now bracket matrix, just the collective projections all across has Iowa on the 9 line. And, if you start, and that's they're still kind of in, it seems like. But now if you lose both these this week, you're not going to go up. You don't want to drift to that 11 where you go to Dayton. I mean, that's the fear. I mean, I don't think they're actually going to get totally left out no matter what. But the other thing that's happened is Ohio State beat Purdue, mm-hmm. and then they walloped Penn State just for good measure. Just showed how bad Penn State is. Yeah. And then, but so they have overtaken Iowa in the Big Ten standings, which means Iowa is now going to have to play like a quad 3 game, most likely, unless it wins one this week, or maybe 2 even. So now they got another potential bad loss in the Big Ten tournament. That's the one that could really hurt you now. And that's why it felt like, it was 99%, 100% bracket projections at Iowa in. I think they're probably still going to make it no matter what, but it might be Dayton, but we don't know for sure. If they beat Penn State, we do know for sure. And then, the other part why we're still talking about it is just it felt like the first time this year where you're just really questioning Ben McCollum's coaching decisions. And I haven't really felt like I needed to really all year, because it's felt like you can, there's a reason why he's doing this. There's a reason, blah, blah, blah. And things were going in the right direction. And then, my buddy Tyler, after the game, he was in State College. Glad he went. I could ask about this stuff. He's like, why did Brendan Hawson, after not even playing in the last two games, play more than 11 minutes in the second half with zero production and 15 minutes for the game? And McCollum's quote was puzzling. And it didn't come up again in this week's presser, so it hasn't been revisited. He said, he's competing probably. My staff does a lot of the substitutions, so they felt like he was competing defensively and felt like he could guard his position, so that's why they played him. And that's like, okay, so you're not, you saw this all happening, you didn't question it, didn't wonder, hey, could we maybe put in Tate Sage? Tate Sage didn't play in the second half. Good player. Been really good on the road. Had a good game at Wisconsin, their previous road game. Did not play in the second half. Tyler asked him, why didn't he play in the second half? McCollum's quote, not sure. I thought he was good in the first half, so not sure. That's like, what's going on here? If Kirk Ferentz said that, we'd be like, what on earth? Why didn't you play? I don't know.
Noah Fant.
AJ Epinesa. Yeah, Noah Fant. There you go. Boom.
I know he's a specialist, but against Northwestern.
But yeah, anyway, take it from here.
Well, exactly. That's and I don't think I'm comparing Tate Sage or Brendan Hawson to Noah Fant, in his absence in that game. But I will say this, that it doesn't make sense. And we heard some of the same things from Fran from time to time. It's like, yeah, I should have played him more or something like that. It happened a lot. And I can understand that sometimes things just get going and you don't really think about the people. But that's who your bench is supposed to think about and help you get through that. And, Brendan Hawson has been a huge disappointment. Massive. And we can say that now because we're talking about NIL dollars and he got a lot of. And, when you're not playing, it's one thing, even Fulgaris is at least playing, and he's been a disappointment. But I think with this guy, it's like, where are you? And then all of a sudden throw you out there, and then you get nothing from it. And I think that's, it's worth questioning. Now, in the big picture, do I question Ben McCollum? No, I think Ben McCollum's still a really good coach, and everybody goes through the dog days of February, which
sure.
You just look at some of the scores and the inexplicable results for most of the teams, and you're like, how did you lose that game? Or why did you play like that? Well, it's blank you February is what one person described it as, and I get it. But that being said, this is an unacceptable loss. Teams like Iowa do not lose. Do not give Penn State its third win of the Big Ten season. You keep them down when you've got that opportunity.
Exactly. So now turning to this week, do you give Iowa any chance to win one of these games?
I do on Sunday to an extent. Nebraska hasn't played really well. They've been pretty, I wouldn't say inconsistent. They play hard, but they haven't been playing that well. They got annihilated at UCLA by 20. Granted, it's on the road, and again, like Purdue is going neck and neck with Northwestern on Wednesday night, and it's so things happen. Although I do think Northwestern's better than its record indicates, but so they're going to come home. They're going to be motivated. It's going to be an emotional day, senior day, Sam Hoiberg, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. So I do think if they are efficient, they will have opportunities. I don't give them much of an opportunity to beat Michigan. It would take a combination of Michigan really being bad, not even poor, but bad, and Iowa everybody playing their best game. I mean, Sturts can handle himself, but I mean, this is, and this kind of comes to the NCAA tournament projections as well, that you want to stay off the 8-9 line, because these 3 or 4 teams that are going to be ones are unbelievable. They are way better than everybody else.
Well, maybe you should drop to the 10 or 11 then.
Exactly. You probably
lose out. Yeah.
Don't go to Dayton, be the 10 or the 11. You're fine. Playing a 6 or a 7, I'd much rather do that, and then play a 2, because Duke is way better than everybody. Michigan is right there. Arizona and Florida is playing its ass off right now, and you could probably throw UConn in there too. As far as up there, you would much rather play an Illinois or an Iowa State than in the second round if you win a 7. And if you're playing a 7, you're playing BYU, you're playing, so there's not a whole lot of difference between playing the 8-9 game and the 10-7 game.
It's just matchups for this particular team, because if you face a team with good bigs, you're in trouble. Driving guards, you're in trouble. But other than that, you're great, Other
than that, the parade was great, Mrs. Kennedy, but
oh, brother, I lost my train of thought there. What I was going to say was, it's weird because as far as like the spot on the schedule, like the Michigan game tonight is way better for Iowa as far as the spot goes, because the Hawkeyes are coming off an embarrassing loss. The Wolverines are coming off a Big Ten clinching win at Illinois. The Wolverines also lost one of their top bench players to an ACL. So what does Michigan have to play for tonight? I mean, they're going to be a 1 seed. They've won the regular season. You could catch them on a listless night. They did lose at home to Wisconsin this year. Now you got to hit a bunch of threes probably, but that's why I say the spot favors Iowa. It's almost like you wish they were reversed. You'd wish you'd get Nebraska at home here and then at Michigan just take that loss, But on Sunday, the spot is going to favor Nebraska for all the reasons, yet it's a better matchup for Iowa. So I do think, as I said on our Hawk Central show this week, I think Iowa's going to be in the mix for one of these. I don't know which one, though. I'm not going to totally rule out tonight, though. Not totally ruling out. Because you got Sturts' senior night. I know he's been here 1 year, but still. You got Sturts on your side. His last home college game, what does he have in, maybe he's got a 40-point game in his bag. I mean, he probably does. He's able to. Do the other guys show up?
Well, you're also talking about a team that's equally adept at playing offense and defense. I mean, Michigan is second overall in Ken Palm, 4th on offense, 2nd on defense. They really have no weaknesses. I mean, this is a different type of team. Linda Borg is equally of a great pickup in the free agency pool as Bennett Sturts, and maybe as good. Morez Johnson, he caught a lot of flack going to Illinois and he played pretty well, and they have no matchup whatsoever for Mara inside. So, I mean, it's
taking the hopes away here, Scott. Come on.
I mean, to be honest with you, this would be the equivalent of 2016 Iowa beating Michigan in football.
Oh, wow.
So is there a chance? Yes. Yeah. Yes. They play the game, right? They're at home. Senior night, all that happy blank. But, this is... a
lot of blanks from you tonight, Scott.
Yeah, I'm shooting blanks, but...
Game day men's health. No, just kidding. Go ahead.
Not that one. I think it would require the scenario you laid out, that maybe Michigan is super flat. Yeah. And Iowa jumps on them early, plays well. The crowd's behind them. They keep up the tempo, engineering victory. So yes, there is a chance, but it happened 1 out of 20 times. Maybe this is the 20th, but It's just Michigan to me is a national title tender, legitimately championship caliber team. I mean, I think Illinois is a Final Four caliber team, but I think Michigan is a championship caliber team.
Okay. Well, I did tease Game Day Men's Health. So let's talk about Game Day Men's Health. Let me tell you about them. I know I have before. I was in there on Wednesday. They are just getting busier and busier every time I go in at the West Des Moines office, which is great because you know what that means? It means it works. And the guys keep coming back. They wouldn't be busy if Game Day wasn't doing a good job. And I can attest that they are. Game Day Men's Health is helping people like me and Scott in our early 50s. Works if you're in your 40s too, by the way. It helps us feel like we're in our 20s again with their testosterone replacement therapy. What they'll do is they'll test your testosterone levels. They'll get you on the dose and the course you need. They'll safely, gradually take you to the right levels. Then they do follow-up blood testing to make sure you're still on track. If you're not too high, not too low, not other side effects aren't popping up. None have for me. So it's been a great experience for me, and then they just keep you in the right zone, and it's just easy peasy every week. And it is easy to get connected with Game Day Men's Health. Call them up or set up a private, no obligation, free consultation by visiting GameDayMen'sHealth.com or stop by one of their locations, the aforementioned West Des Moines, also in Ankeny, in that like mansion up there, North Liberty, where you go, Scott, or now in Naperville, Illinois. I got one more comment on the men, unless you had anything else to add.
Nope, I just still loving Game Day Men's Health. They do a great job for me here in North Liberty, and I don't know if you guys saw the video last summer of the place getting a car running right through the front section there, but it's all repaired and it looks great, and yeah, I can echo the busyness part of it. It's I go in first thing Monday morning, and I think a lot of people are trying to do the same thing. So I've actually, even though I'm supposed to be there at 8, I usually go in a little bit later just because I know that the crowd is pretty thick at that point. So.
Okay, last couple thoughts on men's basketball, but if you got any more, we're fine. I mean, I think our listeners would take them, but I know we want to talk about your rivalries piece too. One of my friends who's just obsesses over these analytics, and he's awesome with it. He really knows his stuff. So I asked him actually while we were recording here what he thought of Iowa's NCAA tournament chances, and he provided some pretty good analysis, and I just wanted to share. I think it makes a lot of sense. I wanted to share, paraphrase what he said. Is what you kind of want in these next two games is just don't get blown out, because the metrics like you more if you're close in these games. So don't lose by like 30 to Michigan, lose by 10, 12. The spreads, I think 9.5, could have fluctuated by the time you guys are listening to this. Nebraska, Ken Palm's got Nebraska favored by 6. That's not that many points. The line will probably be in that 7 range, 7.5 would be my guess. So, just don't get blown out in either one. If you take the L's, you take the L's. To me, now he didn't say this, but to me, you just want to see this team playing better. You just want to see them play well. So compete with these teams and give yourselves a better shot and a feeling when you go to Chicago next week that you're not going to blow this game against the 16, 17 seed or whatever you're playing. But the last thing my friend mentioned was all this could be a blessing in disguise, because he said this exact same thing you just talked about. He said we could fall to a 10 rather than be on that 8-9 line, and that might be a blessing for the Iowa's tournament draw. So you were on it too, Scott. Well done.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I've been kind of crunching numbers now since we're in the really heavy part of February and March now. Getting close to the tournament time and stuff. And here's this scenario. I mean, Ohio State, is now kind of moved past Iowa into that by blowing out Penn State. So if Iowa could get another win and if Iowa State loses, then sure, then Iowa's, can still stay ahead and stay out of that 8-9 game. But I think, right now, I think you want to just get some consistency back. And if that means winning, great, that's important. But I think playing well and seeing yourself playing well against good competition. And both of these teams are, probably, seeded teams at this point. Certainly Michigan's going to be a 1 and Nebraska has a chance, to be a 3 or a 4. You want to play well. And if they can win one of them, if they can go to Nebraska and win, I mean, that would drive Nebraska fans crazy, by the way.
Yeah. If you had to pick one, Hawkeye fans, what would you take? I think I know the one.
Well, I would take Michigan personally, but the emotion part of it, I'm sure maybe has a little more Nebraska. But if you could take out number 2 in the country, you do it. But
that's true, and you would take that pressure off. Then it's like no more.
You might get to a 7.
That's true too. That is true too. Good point. That's a really good point. All right, Michigan it is. But
yeah, if they're playing 9, playing the 9th, they're the 9th seed. They're going to be playing that first day, and they're going to be part of the second first day. I mean, I guess whatever. It's that
Wednesday.
Wednesday. So it's the early tip that day in Chicago. I'll be there, but not for that game. I'm not going. I'm there for Thursday on, so I'll just have to watch that like everybody else and then go over. But playing Ohio State. If that's the case, I mean, Ohio State has probably played itself into the tournament at this point, but that could be Dayton, that could be a 10-9, type of game, one way or the other. And if I'm Iowa, I would much rather be the 10. Say we'll take the 10. We'll win, lose, draw, whatever. Give us a 10 because you want to play the 7 and then possibly the 2. You just want to avoid that one. I mean, remember the good Iowa teams under Davis, kind of in the 90s, got stuck playing the 1. I remember
always 8-9,
Duke and Kentucky, and it was like God. When Andre Woolridge was there in '97, that was a really good team that got underseeded, and you're thinking if they didn't have to play Kentucky right away, that this was a type of team that should have been in the Sweet 16. But you just want to stay away from that because Bennett Sturts will go out and have a great game, and they'll still lose to whoever they play, Duke or Arizona or whatever.
Doom and gloom.
Realistically.
Where was I going with this? But Dr. Tom always won that first game. Anyway, Scott, tell us about this. So we've both been working on some kind of longer pieces. I'm going to talk about mine next, but let's talk about what you were writing for The Athletic that published this morning, right? I haven't had a chance to read it yet. Published this morning on what? Tell us about it. Big Ten rivalries, right?
Yeah, on Monday, I last summer I did my 100 college football rivalries. Well, we decided to do one with basketball too, and I did top 50. I think it was a little more difficult to try to go into top 100 with men's basketball rivalries. But I published the top 50 on Monday morning, and then today is just kind of how nebulous the Big Ten's rivalry structure kind of is, and first, as you can imagine, the top 50, number 1 is as easy as it gets, Duke and Carolina. But I did have 2 Iowa ones in the top 50. At number 11, I had Illinois and Iowa. And at number 16, I had Iowa State. Whereas Iowa State, Kansas was pretty high. I had it at 13. So, but Iowa, Illinois is, as we know, Chad, it goes from simmering to boiling and exploding at different times. It was my number 3 Big Ten rivalry behind Michigan State, which I had 3, and then Indiana Purdue, which I had 4, which some people may be like, ooh. But my story coming out that's on Thursday is just the nebulous nature of this. And I think it's just, when you look at the Big Ten, do you count Ohio State as a rival? Do you count, last week when Iowa beat them, they're now up 87-86. And I went back to like the 68 game, back before when only one team qualified from the Big Ten for the NCAA tournament. They tied for the title because Iowa got beat by Michigan, a bad Michigan team, and they cost them the outright Big Ten championship in 68. Then they had to go play a 1-game playoff with Ohio State at West Lafayette, and then lose by 4. And then they go to the Final Four. So, you have that, and so, is that a rivalry, or is it just a series that
an even series?
Yeah. And then I threw out all these other scenarios. I mean, is Purdue Iowa a rivalry, or is it just, they play each other a lot and there's some good games? I threw out, to me, maybe the greatest regular season game in Big Ten history, 1970 on February 28th, which was Iowa and Purdue. You had Rick Mount score 61 points, which is still a Big Ten record, and would have scored, the estimate is somewhere in the neighborhood of 78 points if the 3-point line was in effect.
Jeez.
You have him, and then you have Iowa, which still has the highest average points per game in Big Ten history, and it won't be surpassed at 102.9, the Fox. And then there's like an estrangement for Rick Mount all these years for Purdue. They don't talk. They finally bring him back for his own night in 2016. They're up 19 on Iowa.
Oh, that's right.
Iowa comes back and beats them. It's the biggest blown lead in history for the Boilermakers, and Iowa did it to them. And then you have but then there's so many others. Is Michigan and Indiana? Is Michigan and Illinois? Michigan and Illinois played in the Final Four in '89, and the Flying Illini were great that year, and they blew them out twice, and then they had the tip in with 1 second left to win. Michigan did, and Indiana and Michigan have played a ton of great games, and then there's other ones. Ohio State, Purdue, Michigan State, Illinois. And you throw all those teams together, they feel like rivalries, but are they rivalries? And I think that's really, kind of fascinating when you look at this, in Illinois and Ohio State. Illinois is like sort of rivals with everybody, but Iowa is their primary number one, but then Indiana's important, and I did have that on my list, Indiana and Purdue for them. But still, it's just Purdue, Michigan State. You throw Izzo out there against anybody, and it feels like a rivalry. So I think this is what's fascinating about Big Ten basketball. It's among the old guard. All these games matter. They still matter because they used to play home and home, as we know. And growing up, it was like. You knew when Illinois came to Iowa City, Iowa was going to beat them. You knew you were going to go to Champaign, except for '87, it was over. You just might as well not even go.
Andy Kaufman. Yep.
Yeah. Iowa, Illinois, Iowa and Indiana. The first time a night team gave up 100 points was at Carver Hawkeye Arena. So, the Andy Kaufman shot. So, but anyway, that's where I was kind of getting into, is just this whole scenario with the Big Ten. So.
Yeah, it'd be fun to see what new ones kind of crop up now when they expanded Big Ten. I mean, one of them I thought of, and I'm not sure where it is on your list, but like when Izzo played Bo Ryan, Wisconsin, Michigan State had some really good classic games in basketball. That's not one you'd think of, but like in basketball, it's like, oh God, those two are playing. I got to tune in. So stuff like that. That's fun. It's fun to think about. I like it. I like it.
I had that 36th on my list. And
there you go.
It was because great coaches make for these types of rivalries.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Michigan, Ohio State was 20th, and then I kept thinking, is it bigger than Ohio State, Indiana? Is it bigger than Michigan and Illinois or Purdue? But yeah, it is, because they still just have that residue from football. But Tom Izzo, Bo Ryan. I mean, Bo beat him the first 6 times they played. They've played in the Final Four, and this was when Dick Bennett was the coach, but they've had all these great games and over the years. So, Illinois, Purdue, I had, on the list, and they're only like 90 miles apart. And it's kind of a big deal when they play. And Indiana, Illinois, remember Lou Henson and Bob Knight hated each other. I mean, with a passion, and I went through I think it was 90 or 91. And they went off on each other. I mean, they almost got in a fist fight after their season finale. So it's just with all these rivalries, they feel like rivalries, and they kind of are. But how do you stack them? It's kind of about coaches. It's kind of about situations. It's like if we're good and they're good and you're playing for a game that matters, it feels like a rivalry, the atmosphere is. But I think that's what also makes the Big Ten so great.
Man, good stuff there, Scott. Good stuff. Enjoyed that's good reading there at The Athletic. It is now time for our Under Pressure segments presented by a new partner for legends and listeners that came aboard last week. That is Mighty M. When you're under pressure, you need equipment built to handle it. That is Mighty M. From pressure washers to air compressors, generators, and compressor generator combos. And Mighty M, a quality company based in Payasta, builds equipment designed to perform when the pressure is on. Proudly made in Iowa, proudly employee owned for 55 years. Mighty M is an industry leader in pressure washers and industrial cleaning equipment that are built for durability, reliability, and performance. To learn more about Mighty M or to find a dealer near you, visit mitm.com/Iowa everywhere. And Scott, this week's Under Pressure person/team is Iowa wrestling coach Tom Brands. This has been I had an interview with him Tuesday, 45 minutes, about almost an hour actually, and he said it's been the worst year of his career. Iowa has lost 6 duels this season. They had lost 6 combined in the last 7 years. So the program has found, I guess, some apathy, kind of. There's a lot of Fran parallels here, Scott, that have started to simmer, and knowing that a decision was coming potentially for Beth Getz on what to do with the leadership of the program. I dug into it, and a big, it's about a 3,500 word story that posted this morning at the Des Moines Register about all the questions that need to be answered within Iowa wrestling. But kind of the big news of the piece was that, and hopefully you guys will read the rest of it, is that Tom Brands will return next season as head coach of the Hawkeyes. That's through Register sources. Nobody on the record there, but was able to confirm that through several sources across the board. So your reaction to that, Scott, that Tom Brands will return next season for the Hawkeyes, even though he's still under pressure.
He's still under pressure. This is a tough situation, I think, Chad. I mean, because there is a standard at the University of Iowa when it comes to wrestling, and there is for all sports, no question about it. Iowa does not want to be a wallflower in any sport, but when you're talking about wrestling, Iowa used to represent the top of the mountain. Iowa was the standard, and now Iowa is not the standard anymore. Penn State's the standard, and Penn State is every bit as dominant, if not more dominant, than Iowa was under Dan Gable. And Iowa has been chasing Penn State for quite a while now. I mean, we're talking about a decade and a half where Penn State has been the premier program in this country. And Iowa continues to fall farther and farther from Penn State, and now falling off the pack when you're 12-6 in dual meets, and you're losing to Minnesota and Iowa State, who you haven't lost to in whatever,
20 years for Iowa State. 20-year streak was snapped for Iowa State, yeah.
And it's like 15 plus or whatever for Minnesota. When you start to, and then the way that they were destroyed by Penn State. I mean, there was, it wasn't like they won 4 matches, they lost 6, and they ended up losing by 6 points or something. I mean, it was 32-3. I was in Florida. It was like a Friday night before the national title game, and it was on in this massive big screen at the facility in Miami, and people are watching it, and they're like, "Wow, I thought Iowa was better." They didn't know the sport, but I'm like, "Yeah, this isn't very good right now, Chad." And so, so anyway, you're the one who talked to Tom. Tell us, give us some insight on your story, and so we all can read it and enjoy it.
Yeah. I had done hours and hours and hours of interviews leading up to the Brands interview to kind All of them on background, so nothing that's quoted in the story. But to understand kind of, because I don't cover wrestling day to day, so it's not like, it wasn't as easy for me to write as like, not that the Fran piece last year was easy, but like, what's Beth Getz going to do with Fran McCaffrey? I wrote that last year. It was a long piece, and I did the same thing to try to understand kind of different viewpoints, from longtime Fran supporters to longtime boosters to, people within the program, maybe people who have exited the program, stuff, trying to just talk to as many people as I could just to understand kind of what issues that they saw, and then just present those issues if I got a chance to talk to Tom on the record. Now, Fran, I did not get it. He would not go on the record with me last year. Tom did. Tom decided he would, and the first quote in my story is, "Ask away," he said. "This has been the worst year of my career. Like basically I got nothing to hide. Like let's do it." And it was a great interview. It really was. I mean, he seemed to me, and again, it was, he can be very charismatic. I think he's a very quality individual, and he's hit a tough skid here. And one section this will be something you can relate to, Scott, very well. And I'll give away one little section of the story. Okay, little top there is a parallel, in my opinion, and you could tell me what you think, to the 2014 Iowa football situation. At the end of that season, you remember, Scott, Iowa had just moved into a new facility, or was moving in, and the pitchforks were out for Ferentz. I mean, it was bad. There was the Rudock Beathard thing was reaching a tipping point. Casey Beathard came out and said, "My son's going to transfer," basically. And this is before the Tax Slayer Bowl. I mean, you picture what today is for Iowa wrestling, and you picture this is before the NCAA championships, and the Hawk Slayer Bowl could be what the NCAA championships end up being for the Hawkeye wrestling squad this year. We'll see. They don't have very great seeds for the Big Tens this week. Their seed, one of my friends who really follows it did the seeding projections and said Iowa's projected. I don't know if they'll finish this bad, but based on the seeds at the Big Ten, projected to finish 7th in the Big Ten. So we'll see. I'd be surprised if they finish that low, but it has been a rough year. They've been injured. Anyway, Scott, going back to that parallel, how did Ferentz survive? What do you remember?
New Kirk, baby. Right. He changed in a way. He went and got help from a PR firm. That was a big one for me in the parallel. Yeah. Yep. Go ahead. And I would say this, regarding Kirk is Kirk was humble enough to understand that he needed to make changes. And I think that's what separates him from, say, Fran McCaffrey, who refused to do anything, to change. He refused to talk to reporters. His wife made life living hell for the radio crew. It was a bad situation. Whereas Kirk looked inward. He looked at what I can do to do things better here. And they changed the practice schedule. He decided to become more open and transparent. He allowed more openness. And he's continuously allowed more openness with his program. We got to see the real Kirk Ferentz, not just this personality that says that's football 3 times in a press conference and talks about maybe Morehouse made him miserable. Maybe Morehouse. Yeah, right. Just kidding. Go ahead. And I think Tom Brands has reached that point in his career. I think you're right. I mean, Tom, like Kirk, has a lot of equity with Iowa fans, with the administration for sure. He was a huge backer of Beth Getz when she was the interim. He came out. He was the first coach I can recall publicly, that was really forceful, and women's basketball was too, but really for wrestling, a men's sport, to come out and be that way, I thought was really telling. And he was, and he's got national titles. He's the 3-time national champion himself, one of the greatest wrestlers in Iowa history, gold medalist at the Olympics. He helped bring back the program when it faced a similar situation under Jim Zaleski. And, so in a lot of cases, you could say he's earned that right to try to right the ship. And he has that equity. And I think there is some apathy. And that's something that they're going to have to conquer. And he probably, as you said, he's going to own it. How does he get better? How does, is that internally? Is it with the program? Is it outreach? You tell me. You talk to him, but I think it's a lot of. I think there's a lot there that absolutely have to get better. I mean, I think he understands that, but in order for Iowa to be Iowa again, they have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I probably went through, 5 to 7 like really big topics that need to change or a lot of folks felt like needed to change, and he addressed them all. So I hope you guys check some of that out. One thing I didn't get into in the story at all, because I didn't want to like distract from it or what. I felt like I wasn't ready to write this part, but we can talk about it here. Like here was an idea that here's one way I think, getting back to like the better communication, better like a turning the page. Like to me, what was the other thing that Ferentz changed in 15? Maybe the biggest thing is he changed the quarterback. Mm-hmm. He changed the quarterback. He said, here's a new face for it. He didn't say it this way, but it's like, I'm not going to stick with the Rudock for the third year, even though I think he's probably a little better than CJ Beathard, maybe. Mm-hmm. We're going to turn the page. We're going to go with, the long-haired sunshine, gunslinger who's got personality, and he might throw a pick six, but he's got some upside there. And we saw that in the Iowa State game, week 2 of the 15 season. What did the Hawks do? They went 12-0. So what he did was change. It helped people, I think, change it just was a way to turn the page. It was 6 days after the game he came out with that, and if 10 days after the NCAA championships, Tom Brands does something seismic with maybe his staff or a wrestler or two, the portal opens April 1st, something like that. But what I would do the most pronounced idea I could come up with, and this is from talking to a lot of people too, is could you go, and I don't know, this would have to be a Beth Getz conversation, but could you get, let's say, a Jordan Burroughs who's coaching a club team out in where I can't remember what state, honestly, but out east somewhere, and Nebraska alum, but he has said publicly that if he did coach, he would want to go somewhere where he knows he could win. Mm-hmm. And could you go get him? I don't know what it would take money-wise, and it doesn't have to be Burroughs, but let's use Burroughs as an example. Could you get an associate head coach for the next? Brands' contract has 3 more years. Like, let's just imagine you could. Just for the fun of a podcast. Let's imagine you could get Jordan Burroughs in here. Bring him in here at $500K a year, whatever, Tom's making $750. Bring him in at $500K a year, $600K a year. I don't know, whatever. As the associate head coach, you put him out there as your 75% of interviews, and you've got he can evaluate how you're working out, practice routines. He can run practice, recruit. I mean, what better type of young star that young kids look up to than that? Hey, come to Iowa State. Look at this facility we got, by the way. Look at this fan base we've got, by the way. And oh yeah, we can still pay you. We've still got money coming in. So, just an idea. It would be an unbelievable change of departure for Tom. To do something bold like that, because he always has stayed within that insulated Hawkeye family. But again, Kirk made for him significant changes when his back was against the wall, and look, he's still coaching. Yeah, he's still coaching. He's age 70, and they just about made the playoff this year, Scott.
I can make a strong case that Iowa's program is the healthiest it's been in the 15 years for football. I think it is in an outstanding position, and and you can see by the attrition, you could see it by the the what they've done on the field, how they've accomplished all that they have. I think they are in a much better spot than they've been since probably the 2010 season. Going into it. The one thing I question is with Tom, and this is straight up honest, how well will he play with others? How well will somebody be able to come in and have a strong voice that maybe not necessarily challenge his, but be different from his? And could he be able to accept that? That will be the big question for me, because there's been a lot of his proteges that have left. They've kind of left and they've never gotten on good terms, or they've never really been close again. And you never felt like that, there's a reason why they don't wrestle you and I anymore, Doug Schwab, and him. So I want to see something that would show that he is willing to accept that. And if that is the case, if Jordan Burroughs I think Jordan Burroughs would be fantastic.
I mean, who knows if he'd do it? I'm just throwing it out there. Another name out, but yeah.
But I let's keep to Jordan Burroughs, because I think he's the right type of guy for this. And the one thing that Iowa fans that we've always known that have the most difficult time is every GD time somebody leaves the program or is to retire, who's in the pipeline that's been here before. Everybody wants a former Hawkeye. Like, okay, when Kirk retires, is it going to be, Seth, or is it going to be LeVar, or is it going to be somebody with Iowa ties? Remember when Dave Ray was supposed to be the offensive coordinator because he was a quarterback here, or Fran, and I remember when Todd Lickliter got fired, everybody wanted B.J. Armstrong, and would Jeff Horner come back and do it? Well, and then wrestling, it's like, oh, there's this great lineage at Iowa, and would Brett Metcalf want to do it? No, if he's the best coach, by all means, but it shouldn't have to be in the Hawkeye family. And I think that's something that absolutely needs to be countered, when this happens. And if he's the guy, by all means, because right now they've lost so much ground to Penn State. It's going to be hard to catch up with them even in a couple. It's
a long game at this point, and it is for everybody. Oklahoma State's making ground with David Taylor.
David Taylor, a Penn State guy, has gone to Oklahoma State. They have the tradition that rivals Iowa's, or in some cases exceeds it with the full number, with John Smith and everything. And they went in a different direction, and they are back. And so Iowa needs to consider the same scenario. And one thing I would say with Beth is that she is really, she's a strong force. She doesn't fear. She doesn't have milquetoast opinions. She doesn't back away, or she's willing to be strong with her opinions and be strong with what's best for the program. And I would imagine that Tom respects that, and that's something that I think needs to take place here, and I think it will.
Yeah, and I really encourage you guys to go read the story, hawkcentral.com. We posted this morning at 6 a.m. So want to toast a great sponsor of Legends and Listeners, Athletic Brewing Company. I have a Wits Peak this morning from America's largest dedicated non-alcoholic brewer, Athletic Brewing. Wits Peak is built upon classic flavors of wheat and malt, interwoven with exotic spices and citrus peel, coriander, and orange dance across the palate alongside a light, crisp, herbal bitterness. Smooth, silky, and curiously savory. It's Wits Peak. It's really good. Athletic Brewing Company is America's largest dedicated non-alcoholic brewer. Happy to have them along as a sponsor. Athletic Brewing, fit for all times. Visit their wide variety of products at athleticbrewing.com. Thank you, Athletic, for being a part of Legends and Listeners. And go drink some.
Yeah, sounds like I hope you enjoy them here, whether it's tonight or, Dad, you enjoy them if you're going to take them and bootleg them over to Chicago, or to Indianapolis, I should say. In my case, I might hit Big Grove. And right now, one of the beers that they're promoting pretty strong in their tap rooms that are now available is called Easy Going. It's a Session Hazy India Pale Ale, IPA. And it's one that's available everywhere. I think it's one that everybody should give a shot to. Of course, we love our all of our Big Grove products, and I think we can start with the awesome Easy Eddie and Citrus Surfer and Neighborhood Beer, and of course, I love Ambers as much as anybody, if not more so. And after the Olympics, get an Amber 1939. They're on tap there at any of your Big Groves, whether it's in Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, right on the Cedar River, the OG in Solon, Des Moines, Omaha. They're trying to get some mixed drinks available in Omaha, but got to go against some state laws there. And then Kansas City as well is on the way. So everybody head on out. And if you just want to sit and watch March Madness and have a non-alcoholic brew, you can also have some of the best food you're going to eat in the Midwest. So each and every area has its, and the tap room has great fixings. So head on over to Big Grove for their month and watch some March Madness, Chad.
Yeah, Friday night, actually, you can go to Big Grove and watch the Iowa women. They're going to play at 5:30 p.m. We don't know who they're going to play yet. But, man, what a season for Jan Jensen and company. I tweeted this out. I'm sure it got a lot of traction, and it was a pretty remarkable stat. The most wins of the Bluter-Jensen era was obviously of the regular season. Regular season wins, Bluter-Jensen era, was Caitlin Clark's senior year. No surprise. They went 26-4 that year. That year, the little, what do they call the little tournaments you do? Exempt tournaments or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
They had 3 games that year, so a little extra game. Usually they have 29 in the women's regular season. So they went 26-4, and the second most, Scott, of all the teams of those 26 was this season. This team, 24-5. Jensen's team finishes. Yes, Caitlin Clark's junior year, 23-6. Megan Gustafson's senior year, 23-6. Kathleen Doyle's senior year, 23-6. This team got to 24-5, and those teams didn't have UCLA and USC in the conference. And those were 2 of Iowa's losses this year. So if you think about the Bluter Big Ten, let's say, Iowa beat them all this year with a team that was not picked in the top 5 in the conference. Really remarkable job at Jan. I thought she very well could have been Coach of the Year in the Big Ten Conference. I didn't have a vote, but she was right there with Corey Close, who won it. But really, they go to Indy with a lot of momentum. They go there as the 6th overall seed right now in the reveal. Did you see that? The number 6 overall seed in the overall reveal. That's just wild to think about. Like, this is high. This is basically where Caitlin was her junior year. Like a solid 2 seed. Like crazy.
Exactly. Yeah, and if it wasn't for some voter manipulation, they'd be in the top 8 in the AP poll.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Somebody continues to place them 18th, and I don't really get on the polls that much, Chad. I mean, it's a tough job. I know you've done it for football, and it's thankless, and all you do is irritate people. But I think in this situation, there's a heavy bias. It's just that, let's call it what it is. And I think I don't like Caitlin's fans, so I'm going to take it out on Iowa. Because when you have Michigan State and Ohio State and Michigan ranked way higher than Iowa, did you watch the games? I mean, it's either lazy, ignorant, or biased. And none of the 3 are good choices when it comes to the poll. And so to me, that person should have their vote taken away. Frankly, and again, I don't care if somebody has them 12th or if they have them first. Well, first would be hard, but if they have them 4th or 12th or whatever, that doesn't matter. I mean, they need to be in a range where they deserve, and to have them 18th is ridiculous. And they're only 3 points behind Michigan, who they beat by 18, but they're 3 points behind. So if somebody votes them just 13th, which would still be way lower than what they should be because they're 6th in the reveal, they would be 8th or maybe even 7th. I don't know. I'd have to look at the points for 7th.
I think it's 8th. But yeah.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Yeah, first of all, that voter, was also had 10-loss Ole Miss ahead of the Hawks.
Yeah.
10 losses. 10-loss team. she's based in like California, I guess. But anyway,
she's San Francisco.
What was I going to say? Oh, well, if Iowa can win Friday night, and that's going to be a big if because we don't know if Hannah Stuelke is going to play. I think she will. That's my vibe on it. Jan Jensen was very, very Ferencian on the injury front. Didn't even give a we'll see. She should have said, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. Like Ferentz does, We'll see. Is he going to play Saturday? We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was like, Hannah's, it's her strong arm that got, or her dominant arm, I should say, that, got hurt against Illinois. She didn't play against Wisconsin. So she may not play this weekend. I think she will. She's a senior. If she can go, she's going to go. But if Iowa wins Friday night against Michigan State or Illinois, very, very likely would be a rematch against Michigan. So maybe that voter is going to get to have the last laugh.
Yeah.
If Michigan wins by like 20. But Iowa beat them by 18. So
yeah,
that's the thing. It's not like Iowa edged Michigan. It was 62-44 on Fox.
Yeah, it's a body of work thing. It always is. There's always such latest is the greatest. And, so if Michigan wins even by 10 or 5 or whatever, people can kind of throw that at them. They split. Then they just basically split their 2 games this year. That's irrelevant in the narrow or even in this poll. I just think it's ridiculous. They're not 18th. They should be 6th or 7th, and if they lose, they could be 8th, 9th, or 10th, and that's really about the extent of it to me. But I guess the one thing we should all just do is, when it comes to the polls, is just flush them. And one of the things is, it's time to discover just how the plumbing industry can be when you choose a customer-first, independently owned and operated business like Ackerman Plumbing, especially if you need to flush bad rankings. Ackerman Plumbing services the Iowa City area, and we're thankful for their support here on Iowa Everywhere's Legends and Listeners and Instant Iowa. Ackerman is only in the residential plumbing business, so your calls matter and will always be answered in a timely manner. Whether it's for a plumbing emergency, routine service or maintenance, equipment replacement, or upgrades like tankless water heaters and water filtration systems, call Ackerman. We love businesses that are growing, and Ackerman is looking for another service tech, so if that's you, reach out. And a shout out to the Ackerman team, Corey, Stacy, Aaron, Nathan, and all the rest. So visit ackerman-plumbing.com for 5-star residential plumbing services in the Iowa City region.
Well, Scott, I think if the Hawkeyes win Friday night against whoever, Michigan State, it's a tough matchup because Michigan State was in the 16 reveal as well, and that's the 7 seed. So it wouldn't be a bad loss if it occurred. Yeah. But if they win that game, I think that cements the Hawkeyes as a 2. They might even get the NCAA 2 anyway, but certainly the way they finish, they'll be no lower than a 3 in March Madness, and that's kind of what you wanted. You didn't want to be on the 4 line. So good situation for the Iowa women, no matter what happens this week. But it's a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun to watch right now. Ava Hayden is just unbelievable. Well, Scott, I did want to talk about the Iowa lottery before we tee up our last segment, and have you guys out there start thinking about what your millionaire lifestyle would be like. I know the guys in the NFL Combine are thinking about their millionaire lifestyle potentially, but with Iowa Lottery's Millionaire for Life, you could become a winionaire. Top prize is $1 million a year for life. So that's like maybe a 3rd round pick would be a $1 million a year for like 4 years or something, Scott? Is that about right? Somewhere in there. But this is $1 million for life. $1 million a year for life. Second prize is still $100,000 a year for life. So maybe like a WNBA high salary. I don't know. Yeah. There are 9 different ways to win, and it's just $5 to play. Scratch, pick, pull, or play your way wherever you play the Iowa Lottery, Scott. So tell us about the NFL Combine. I did not get to follow it as much as I wanted to because I knew you were there, and I knew you'd tell me about it this week. So what were your biggest takeaways from the 9 Hawks that were there? What was the biggest, other than Jennings Dunker's hair? There he is. There
Jennings.
He is. Oh, yeah. Look at how beautiful that thing is.
Oh, I know. Again, I'll never hear Freebird without thinking of Jennings Dunker striding, in slow motion. It's like instead of chariots of fire, it's like chariots of mud packing or something. But he's the life of the party. He's what everybody really wanted to see, and it was the only downside for it was that he was last. He was like the last person to be in the combine interviews, and so it only was like a 5-minute interview, and I'm like, what? But I'll start with the offensive line, and their workouts are their workouts. They did pretty much what you'd expect them to do. Logan had, he was number 1 among offensive linemen in the 40, ran a 4.9. I mean, that's just incredible to be 299 pounds and run a 4.9. His shuttle time was really high. Same thing with his 3-cone. So he's got really good flexibility and movement. We already knew that. And, Dunker, was kind of in the same boat, not as, flashy or as fast, but, he was good. And then Bo didn't post the best times in the world, but he's not that type of player. But I think what was really most interesting to me and, were some of the things that they said, Chad. And, their personalities. Bo referenced your story that you wrote on him on the 3 of them last year, and how he's going through, ADHD and how he's trying to make that work and how he can be an example for people. But their personalities could not be more different of those 3 guys. But I think their effectiveness and what they'll do at the next level will be similar. And that is, Logan, I look at him as Logan it'd be great to have a neighbor like Logan Jones, because if it snows and it's 7:30 and you're looking out there and it's like, man, he cleared off my driveway for me. What a great guy, He's the type of guy. He's like, yeah, I noticed, you've been out of town for a few days, so I mowed your yard for you. That just feels like Logan Jones to me. Logan Lee was the same way. Maybe it's the first name Logan. Jennings Dunker is the life of the party. He was the life of the party there. He was at the Senior Bowl, and he will be for his next team. I think he reminds me a lot of George Kittle in his personality, and he'll take that to the next team. Everybody's going to love to have him around. Mm-hmm. Bo Stevens is direct. He's honest, and he'll answer everything. But he's just got to know, he's all business. And he was a great interview. He was very thoughtful, but also just very strong with his words. And really, from talking to a couple of evaluators about all 3 of them, they all like him, all 3 of them. And one asked me, he goes, and this was one of the best ones. He's like, which one's going to have the longest career? And I'm like, I don't know. And he goes,
that's a good question.
I know. And I'm like, okay, who's going to be the best pro? And I'm like, this is kind of a wild card, but I'm going to go Bo Stevens. Mm-hmm. I said health aside because we don't know. But I said Bo really ascended more than the other 2. And the other 2 got better, no question about it. But Bo really took a big jump. And I said, he's got a mean streak that reminds me of Linderbaum, Brandon Sheriff, Robert Gallery. And he kind of referenced a little bit of that too, that it's different. And Jennings can put somebody on their back too, but he'll laugh about it. And Logan, it's like, he does it, but, he does it with, and will lift up, help the guy up type of thing. But but Bo will put you on your down, and you're not getting up.
No.
So
I love Bo. Yeah. I think he's just gone through enough personal adversity where I think he has matured so much that an NFL team that looks at Bo Stevens and really truly understands his story and how he's ascended so quickly in the last couple of years. And you have to remember, he was a 4-star. He was a big prospect. I mean, he had an LSU offer, I'm pretty sure, when I did that story on him. He had a lot of people coming after him, and he didn't even love football at that point. But now he has learned to love the game for the right reasons, and which are his teammates. So he's a great teammate, an absolute physical blocker. And he plays a position where you can have a long NFL career. I mean, look at Marshall Yanda. I mean, if you're a good guard in the NFL, they need good guards. You can't just pick those up at Quick Trip. you know.
Yeah. No, you cannot. I think we've learned that lesson when that got brought up before. But you know, I also asked them about who's going to be the next guy, and Logan had a really good quote with regarding Trevor Lauk and also Cade Pieper. And I don't know if Aiden, if you can play that, what he had to say about
had kind of a similar trajectory to you in some ways. He was going to be a defensive lineman at North Dakota State, then flipped over to Iowa to play O-line. Now I guess he's going to try to take your spot. What has he been? What have you seen from him trajectory-wise, and what can he be a guy that's here like next year?
Absolutely not. He sucks. Pete, man, it's very interesting, and I've told him this to his face, so I can say it now, but like when he came into the program, obviously very under-recruited guy, and I remember working with him, and I was like, oh no, like what are we doing? He didn't look very good, didn't have the fundamentals, anything, and then he threw up that day as well from, you know, the drills we were doing, so I was like, oh, he's in for it. But the progress he has made has just been absolutely crazy, and the way he works every single day. And you know, we were always working together after practice. He's always asking me questions. Like, the talent is there, and I'm very excited to see, you know, whether he's at center or guard. I know, you know, Mike Mislinski's back, so I don't know who's going to be playing center or guard, but wherever he's at, he's going to be very successful just because of who he is, the way he operates. Yeah, man, Pete's the best. I'm excited for him.
Were there any?
Yeah, I think you've convinced me how good he is, and I mean his PFF ratings are so good too. But yeah, I know he's good, but yeah, I think he's gonna be the center. He's gonna be the center. He's just too good.
He's too good. In fact, it's funny. One story I was overhearing when our guys with the Detroit Lions, Colton Pouncey, told me that he and a couple other people went to Jack Campbell and asked them, okay, of the Iowa guys, who do you want? And, you know, who do you think should come? And he said Cade Pieper is the best one. I thought that was really impressive just from what he's watched of him. He thinks Cade Pieper is the best one. And between him and Lauk both, I mean, they're two guys who are going to be juniors, but they could be at the combine next year. And so you've got that. And then I also, you know, was able to talk to, you know, Caden Weegan, a little bit, and his times were decent, 4.47. You know, some people were wondering if that wasn't good enough. I'm like, that's plenty good. Come on. You know, I don't know what you want. You know, he's 5'9", and he's got good. He's totally Dante Hall to me. He's very, very raw as a receiver. I don't know, you know, and so he's not getting drafted as a receiver. He'd get drafted as a return specialist, who then can make work into the offense, which is what happened with Dante Hall. He was a running back at Texas A&M, and he had a different number, and then eventually it was like, okay, he's good enough to play. Devin Hester. I'm not going to compare anybody to Devin Hester, but he was he was a corner at Miami, you know, and then became a receiver. So. You know, he was interesting. I thought talking to both TJ Hall and Xavier Wampa, there's a lot of interest for both players. They had a lot of meetings, a lot of discussions. I thought Xavier had a really good workout, you know, running 4.48, you know, at his size. He's had a lot of discussions about playing, you know, in sub packages as a linebacker and other things like that. And TJ Hall, you know, didn't run the best necessarily. I mean, but it was still under a 4.6. So I still think he's in that probably 5th round range. You know, Max Llewellyn had a nice workout too. And, you know, and Carson Shire is a guy that's, you know, as we know, came on real strong last year. And his numbers were pretty damn good. I mean, 4.56 in the 40, and, you know, his vertical of 40 inches. I mean, that's pretty damn good. So if you got a 7th rounder, you need a special teamer and a 5th linebacker. I mean, take him. Yeah, exactly. So all of them, you know, really came, you know, did well. I think they've all put themselves in, you know, maybe not Drew Stevens. I didn't talk to him, and kickers are different, but out of the 8 positional players, I think they all put themselves in spots to be drafted. I think Mark Gronowski, from talking to just generally with people that they were like, he should have been here. He's good enough. He, would have liked to have seen him throw. And he did enough at the East-West Shrine Bowl. And this year's quarterback class is not very good. I mean, maybe it turns out to be magical. I don't know. But I mean, there's one prospect that we all know is good, and the rest of them are, question marks. So, as we know, Mark Gronowski is, a huge, is totally awesome when it comes to team and character. He's a physical guy. And, if you're like with Ben Johnson and you could line him up right next to Caleb Williams in the backfield, and he could be a short yardage quarterback / running back. He can do a lot of different things if you have an imaginative coordinator. So, and everybody wonders about Aaron Graves, but Mason Richmond didn't get to go to combine last year. He got drafted. Aaron Campman never went to the combine, which is really surprising. And I think, I think it just takes a team to like him, and he'll get plenty of opportunities at the pro day. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, I think it's a big deal, of course, to go, but I don't think that's such a deal breaker for somebody in their pro career to not go.
Great show, Scott. We'll talk. I'm sure we'll talk draft here in a couple months, whenever, or 7 weeks or whenever it is. So, but good insight there. Maybe the Hawks will set a draft record for a number of guys picked. We'll see.
They get to 7. They get the record.
All right. Well, I don't know what we're doing next week's show yet, guys. Aiden didn't tell us, but it's possible. It's possible. Okay, I'll just throw this out there that we'll do it after. If Iowa plays that early Wednesday game, maybe we'll do it right after that. If everything allows, we could be the instant Iowa version of for Iowa Everywhere. So anyway, Chad Leistikow, Scott Dochterman. As always, we thank you for listening to Legends and Listeners, only on Iowa Everywhere.